So my idea is called Football in the Community. So it's a 10 to 15 minute short documentary focusing on how football plays such a vital role in the community, highlighting issues within the community and how football can sort of bridge the gap and almost be an escape for people. So to help share this message, I'm going to be using first-hand accounts via interviews, which I hope will re-emphasise the point and show that it's actually happening and how it's genuinely having an impact. So I've chosen to do a documentary and the topic because I have a passion for sports and I enjoy storytelling. I've written a lot, and I felt as though it allowed me to use the most creative freedom to cover both areas. Like I say, I also feel as though it falls well within my beat of sports and something that I'm quite knowledgeable of, so I should be able to be factually accurate. I'm yet to try a documentary style piece, which obviously could be seen as a negative, but I've done audio, I've done video, I've done the aspects of a documentary, so I want to try combining them. And like I said, I want to combine sort of every skill, hopefully, into one, which I hope could be a positive. So I intend to conduct 3 interviews for the documentary, again to go with the storytelling and emphasising the points. 2 of these interviews are already planned and the 3rd is almost done, so there's been good progress made on that. I mostly reach deadlines, which I hope will also help with realising it. And there's virtually endless possibilities in it. It's not as if I can run out of ideas to not be able to fill the time. It's such a wide open topic. I have got a set way I want to go, but if I needed to fill more time, it would be very easy to adapt and do that. So for equipment and resources, I'm going to need clip microphones, I think, for interviews. I feel like it'd be better than having people holding them across, especially given they're going to be like sort of sit-down interviews rather than street interviews. A camera, obviously, for recording the interviews. Editing software for editing afterwards. My laptop for editing again. Areas to film, I've already got an area booked, so that shouldn't be an issue. And a tripod again for the camera for filming. For research, it's going to be primarily secondary research, only because I feel like it's going to be less time consuming, but I feel as though I can get the same benefit from it. I am, though, intending to use some surveys, which I guess could be seen as first-person research, to gauge opinion, create my own statistics that I can incorporate in the documentary, hopefully. And I will look to use primary research if the opportunity presents itself. And as you can see, I've got some examples of research, so looking at existing short documentaries about sport, articles. There's actually one, but there's a whole load. Inspiration, admittedly, is quite short, but that's because I don't really watch too many documentaries. It was more the idea that inspired me rather than an existing product. But obviously you've got Footy Adventures, which is a guy on YouTube who does like short 10-15 minute videos in a documentary format on a whole range of things. So I feel as I can take some things from that to incorporate mine. I've got Louis Theroux, what is that? And I've seen quite a few of his documentaries. So again, although they're longer, so I feel as I can take some things from it. And then I didn't really have anything to put on there, but another inspiration is just the general issues within communities, which sort of inspired me to want to highlight them. And then finally, my production schedule, which is there for my proposal. But I feel as though it's easy enough to follow and leaves room, if and when I might need it, to adjust. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thanks Jack. Firstly, really like the idea of I actually saw a very similar idea a few weeks ago when we went to Elam. So
I was going to ask the trial you've got on there.
Yeah.
What is that?
I watched it a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
It must have been
Because
like-
it really reminded me of something we watched.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago I watched it. I'm going to watch it again.
Okay, I'm going to try and get my hands on the one we watched as well.
yeah, 'cause it was excellent. It was really good. Just a few points. I think 15 minutes may be pushing it a little bit, to be honest. I think if you're going to do a documentary, and Graham will have a better idea of this, but I think probably about between 7 and 10 minutes is usually...
I wasn't necessarily aiming for 15. I said I think 10 to 15 on there. It was more so if there was more content, I wasn't necessarily limited, but I think it would be lower towards the 10,
Yeah.
maybe less.
I think there's two factors to take into account. One, having time to edit it,
Yeah.
and two, how long you can keep your audience engaged for, because 7 minutes doesn't sound like a lot, but actually 7 minutes when you're watching a short documentary is an immense amount of time. So it's just something to think about. We can look once you've filmed it what that looks like and have a bit more of a discussion then about it.
Yeah.
Who are your interviews planned with? You said you've already started that, but you didn't give details.
So I've got one with a guy called David James who works in the Community Trust of Cholton. That's going to be here on...
David James,
David James' name is, yeah.
not the ex-England goalkeeper.
Not the goalkeeper.
Community Trust at Cholton.
Yeah, I forgot his actual...
Cholton Athletic?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
I forgot his actual position there, but that's going to be the Wednesday we come back in.
That doesn't matter. The
20th.
very fact it's got the word community in it works.
Yes.
Yeah. And who's the other one, Jack?
The other one, I'm waiting to hear back, but he has already agreed. His name was Samir Singh, who is the community director at Arsenal.
How'd you get hold of him?
I just emailed Arsenal and it got forwarded to him.
That's excellent resourcing there.
It took about 2 months, but got there in the end. So I'm waiting
Community
to...
director at Arsenal.
Yeah, and that's going to be
Fantastic.
at their community hub at the Emirates.
Good.
And then I said the third one that I'm working on is the guy that you gave me, who I need to message actually.
The guy,
Sutton Dynamite.
oh, that guy, who's that will work at a grassroots level.
Yeah.
I'm amazed, actually, you left them two names out of your actual... You said you got 2 interviews.
Yeah.
That would have been nice little things to include, but there you go.
Yeah, because you kind of skimmed over it. You went, I've got
Yeah,
2
I've
interviews
got
already, and
interviews.
moved on.
Yeah. I've got Will Smith and yeah, go on. Sorry, I'm meeting Jesse's people.
Yeah. Anyway, so the other thing that I wanted to have a bit of discussion about is equipment specifics, setting specifics. Have you got any examples about how your interviews are going to take place, what set you're going to use for it? Because all that sort of stuff will need practice and time to figure out. Go on.
Well, as I've only got one, the Cholton one so far that I actually know where and when. So
Okay.
it's going to be, I've asked Gavin Brocker, we're going to be using the hub, which this room.
Did Gav get back to you? as well?
Yeah, he said that would be okay.
Oh, brilliant. Keep a note of that email needs to go on your website.
Okay, yeah.
And because Gav will forget.
Okay. See, I want it to be, although it won't be necessarily too long, sort of in the format as if it was, so like sort of sit down, some like maybe using the sofas or something.
What, you just going to invite those guests here? You can, but I'm just asking if that's your plan.
The David James I did. I say the Arsenal one, I think we're doing it at the Arsenal hub at the Emirates, and the Sutton Dynamo isn't.
Just so understated.
Casually visiting the Emirates.
Yeah, just kind of see it. Oh, by the way, did I mention? I've got one with Arsene Wenger as well. Yeah. I told him I might not be able to make it.
I think it's the way you say it as if it's just normal.
Yeah. Anyway, this is getting
Go on.
out there.
But yeah, so I sort of sit down, so that's why I did clip mics rather than an actual mic.
Yeah.
I just feel like it would be not more formal, but maybe more formal, which I feel like given it's somewhat a serious topic would be better.
Can I just ask one thing if you use in this room?
Yeah.
Be aware of what this room is like, because I see videos in here all the time. The couches are great and all that, they're awesome, but the walls in here absolutely
Looks like a college classroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can tell where stuff's been pinned up, so I think if anything, just get a backdrop behind it or something like that. Just something to stop it looking like a college classroom. I think
Just
is
be
probably
aware
the
it
best way to
doesn't
put
lend
it.
itself to film.
Yeah.
And so you got to be creative with it if you're using this space.
Don't get me wrong, the furniture does. The furniture's great. It's the right sort of thing, but
Why didn't you book the studio?
Didn't even think of that, to be fair.
Why don't you book the studio instead, and then you can have a back
Would that be
doors.
free?
Yeah, well, if you book it will.
We had a massive meeting about booking it this morning, so
Who
you
knows
did a
to
proper
go to
system in
book
place, Billy.
We got green screen, everything you can
Oh.
use if you wanted to, you know.
Yeah.
And then you can think a lot more about your actual setting.
But
Yeah,
it's so
that's-
important that you get the setting right, because it's what makes it look like a real documentary versus
A college document.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
and
that
it
makes
is
sense.
noticeable. Even on some of the best documentaries I've seen, these walls and things just ruin them.
Yeah.
Cool. The other thing as well, sir, I'm confused because you said that you wouldn't do primary research, but really your full documentary is built on primary research.
Sure, well, when it was research, I presumed that it meant like prior to starting it. So in terms of research to figure out what approach you're going to take, for example.
That's
So,
fine. I just wanted to check because technically, even by meeting and interviewing people, you are conducting primary research. It's just naturally part of what you're doing. So don't sell yourself down on this. The other things I've said as well. So you need to watch more documentaries. And you need to look at documentary types so you can establish what should go into your documentary. I'm rushing.
No, don't rush.
And the final
You're
thing
saying
is,
a lot of things on this.
yeah, and the final thing is on this, you need to be more specific. I will continue to film during this week, gives me absolutely nothing in terms of what you're filming. And you will thank yourself for being more specific in terms of your planning. You must know when you're visiting different clubs and things like that. Be specific, tell us what you're doing on those days. Because if you're out on a Tuesday and you're not in college all day because you're out filming, I don't know, could be anywhere with you, you need to just tell us so I know where you are. So if someone walks into my room and goes, where is he filming today? He's at this club.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to see better how you're going to achieve this, because this has the potential to be really good. And if Graham can get you that video, I think you'll appreciate how good it can actually look. In terms of equipment and specifics as well, just to go back on that, you need to decide what equipment's most appropriate. If you use just a Nikon camera for this, it'll look crap. That's the only way I can put it. If you use a decent camera for this, it'll look good.
What would you recommend?
Honestly, I need to stop recommending them because we don't have that many and they're in mass use, but one of the Canon 5Ds, they're excellent.
Okay.
And even having a bit of a chat with David about getting the best results out of it. We've also got as well, it really is in demand. We do have a Blackmagic camera, but when I say it's in demand, it is in demand.
Can I chip in on that?
Mhm.
Can I suggest you use more than one camera?
I was considering that, I just wasn't sure about availability, but I was.
No, don't worry about availability. You'll either get told they've got it or they haven't.
Yeah.
But plan for more than one camera.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if you put a call sheet in for more than one camera and they haven't got it, well, in your portfolio, you're showing us that you plan to use more than one camera.
Yeah.
And that you're going to have to do pre-production paperwork like storyboarding and stuff like that. And using more than one camera will be reflected in your storyboard, because you can cut different shots then. And again, it just give it more variety and more for us to engage with.
Yeah.
And especially if you're interviewing one person at a time, where you can have like one mid shot, one close up from maybe a different angle, and it just gives it so much more variety. And if someone's saying something important that needs emphasis, you can use the close up to. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just plan for more than one camera.
Yeah.
When you said, oh, obviously a camera. Well, obviously a camera, yeah, but in other words, obviously you might mean, yeah, obviously 2 or 3 cameras I need for that type of interview, yeah.
Yeah.
So be more ambitious with that.
Yeah.
Sorry, were you done, Jess?
I'm done.
I thought your presentation was good.
I was to get to comment on that. Your presentation was good.
I think you could, just moving forwards, it's not a criticism by any means, but some of the bullet points you had were a little lengthy, where you could have literally given us a few words and then you spoke the rest of it. You didn't have to read it off the script, so you knew what you were saying.
You don't have to have your prod schedule on the screen either. You can make reference to it. It's got it in front of us.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
The other thing that I'd strongly recommend, Jesse mentioned it and I'll say it again, if you're going to go away now and do any prep whatsoever, you want to decide what type of documentary you're making. If you literally Google types of documentary, you'll see that there's a list of different types. You need to establish the type of documentary you're actually making.
It'll list example films underneath
Yeah.
most of them as well that you can have a look
It'll
at.
give you samples you can look at, because you mentioned Louis Theroux. You gave us some nice examples of different documentaries that are on YouTube and stuff there, yeah? But there's a particular type of documentary you're making, or you could be making, once you've decided what it is, because you're going to do interviews. Are you going to be part of it?
I think so, yeah.
think so,
That
or
is-
might be.
That is the plan. It could change, but
Okay, but there's different ways you could be a part of it. It could be you kind of referring to your part in all of this world you're talking about as somebody who's on a journey to find something out, or you could simply be the interviewer who's not actually in the documentary, although we know someone's being interviewed, but you can literally do that lots of different ways. You know, we could see you off screen, on screen, we could hear your voiceover, you could be narrating parts of it. Not quite sure what you're actually got in mind with that yet.
Yeah.
What you really want to be finalising over the Easter break is the type of documentary you're making, yeah, and a treatment. So what we want at the heart of that treatment is the story you're trying to tell, like a central question or a central line of inquiry. What am I trying to establish here? We get a sense of it from the idea you're doing football in the community. So if I read into it, I'm like, oh yeah, the benefits of football in the community for giving people from different backgrounds opportunities and stuff like that. Or maybe that's one line that you're going down, I don't know. But you've got some excellent interviewees, and I feel like if you can establish the questions you're trying to answer, what the conclusion you want your audience to be left with at the end of it, yeah, this is the bit that you really want to kind of like thrash out and flesh it out and find out what's going on and what you're doing. You with me, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
So Jesse's right. The time frame, I think 10 to 15 minutes, too ambitious.
Yeah.
You know, most documentaries that we're starting to see now are coming in between 7 and 10 minutes. And you'd be surprised the amount of material you can get into 7 minutes if you plan it out and structure it well to begin with. Yeah?
Yeah.
So what would be great is when you come back from Easter, if you have an idea of the type of documentary you're making, maybe some examples, because you will have to have examples of those different types in your portfolio, but also more so the type that you're making, so you can refer to how it's structured and things like that.
Yeah.
But then that will feed into the way you structure your treatment. Yeah, and try and get it as finalised as much as you can. So when you're coming back from Easter, you're booking the studio, you're getting the studio booked. In fact, you could book that today.
Yeah, I was going to go after.
Book it, just book it for when you need it, yeah? But try and book it for 2 sessions. So the first one, getting in there and doing some test shots, where you wouldn't even have to have your interviewee in there. You could grab anyone just to go and sit in the chair while you literally take some test shots of your angles and stuff you want to get, your lighting, your setup, things like that, and then book your final production day in there, where you might need half a day, whatever you're going to need to go in there and do the actual thing. But then all of the test shots and everything you've done will be reflected in your pre-production paperwork, because you'll be able to take those test shots, draw up a storyboard, put your script together and everything, and if you do it in that order, you'll then, the final production will be so much more kind of like informed, you'll be prepared for it, you won't be making it up on the day, you'll have it all arranged beforehand, yeah? And that will be reflected in the final product then, yeah?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great idea and it's a great topic that you're covering, but I feel like now you've got 2 weeks that you could, obviously you can have a break, but you could spend some time just finalising the type of documentary you're going to make and the treatment for it. Yeah? What is the central question that's going to be answered at the end of it? Are you simply going to create awareness that football's a great sport for all people from different backgrounds to get into? It could be as simple as that. Or you might be challenging something, or inquiring about something, investigating something. It's up to you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. There's no doubting when you want to do something and get going on it, you're going to do a very good job of it, yeah? But I feel like if you're working smart on this, in the right order, we're going to see a really nice result at the end of it.
Thank you.
Yeah? Good effort, Jack. Well
Thank
done.
you.
Cheers.